Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second annual No Fear Job Search webinar series presented by Jobscan. So my name is John. I'm the marketing manager at Jobscan. And if you're unfamiliar with us, Jobscan, we are a company dedicated to building the best online tools for job seekers, such as resume optimization. That's our calling card. And we even have a career change tool, which is on point today for this presentation. So today we'll be hearing from Katherine Bouglai on how to job search when changing careers. And this, like the rest of our No Fear presentations, will be available for replay on Jobscan's YouTube channel in the near future. So just keep an eye on your inbox for any updates there. And that way you can revisit this or share it and do what you may. Now, before I hand it off to Katherine, some quick housekeeping. We recommend that everyone have their view set to active speaker mode in Zoom. It should be a setting, I think, in the upper right-hand corner. That'll give you the best experience. And to ensure a distraction-free environment for everyone, we'll be keeping you muted and the videos turned off for the duration of the session. That said, we still want to hear from you. So there is a text chat feature that myself and my colleague Jessica will be monitoring. So send your questions there. We'll be fielding from there, and then we'll send those questions to Katherine. She can answer them here in the session a little later. So keep those questions coming, and we'll get as many answered as we can. All right, one more thing for attending this webinar, Jobscan is offering a 2-week free trial of its premium service and 20% off if you decide to renew at that point. So jot down the link at the bottom of this webinar. You'll see it on the next slide. And if you want to get started today, otherwise, we'll be following up afterwards via email, so keep an eye out for that. All right, with that, I'm very excited to turn it over to today's presenter, Katherine Bouglai. She presented with us last year on the topic cover letters. It was really great, one of the better sessions I attended. So really excited to hear what she has in store for this one. So thank you, Katherine, and welcome everyone. And let's get started.
Thank you, John. Thank you for the warm introduction. I am Katherine Bouglai. I'm a career coach. And before I go on, I just want to share a little bit about my personal background and why I am so passionate about career change. It is the subject, the topic that I picked specifically when I saw it as one on the list of all the things we can talk about. And to be honest, I can actually present any career-related topic, but this one, the career change, was particularly special to me. So I was really, hoping, I hope I get this one. And one of the reasons is I personally changed career in my life twice. So being a career coach, this is actually my third career. My first career, I was working in the lab as a research assistant for a biotech company. So that was interesting, but not at all what I expected. I was very young, and I didn't know what I was doing. And then I changed my career to do something really exciting that I thought at the time, which was special effects for film. So I went ahead and I got a degree in that, moved to California for about 15 years. And then I got a job at a major studio in Los Angeles, and I stayed there. And I was doing this work for about 10 years. And then I burnt out, and then I wanted to move out of LA. I didn't want to stay there for the rest of my life. The lifestyle that I've had with that career was pretty crazy. And there were some other reasons that I won't get into right now, not to take away from our time. But at some point, I'd say about 2014, I moved back to Seattle for family reasons. And it was time to change career because this industry just wasn't really existent in Seattle. And to be frank, I didn't want to do this anymore. Again, I'll tell you more why when I get into the nitty-gritty details. So now I'm a career coach. I wanted to be a coach for a while, and I love this profession. I love doing what I do. And I particularly love talking about careers and discovering why people go for certain careers and not the others, why people change careers, what works, what doesn't work. So I can be really geeky about these topics. When I work with people, I get very observant. I look for patterns in behaviors. And naturally, I'm very good with people, especially working one-on-one. And I'm good at giving them feedback that's honest and candid, which sometimes may not be something they want to hear, but I do it from a place that it makes to bring them value from the place of love. I'm going to say that. Okay, that being said, let's talk about career change. And just want to mention, so the topic, the title of this call, so it's more, what do you need to know before changing careers? So that's a good question. And that's the kind of question that I wish I knew the answer when I was changing careers. And of course, I had no clue, but later I discovered, because I am in the industry in career change, so which is part of what I do with my clients. And after doing this work that I do and discovering and the methods that I use, I have more answers now than I used to, and which is what I want to do for other people, because I don't want them to make the same mistakes that I did. All right. So the first thing, I'm just going to point it out. We're dealing with a lot of pressure when it comes to career change. Of course, most of the pressure comes from the inside, from our own heads that we put on ourselves. But it can also come from our friends, our family members in particular, especially the ones who are really attached to us making income, a steady income. So there's a lot of pressure and fear about career change. We live in a society that greatly rewards a successful career change. So if have you heard like a YouTube video or a TED Talk or a presentation about this one successful person who used to work as an engineer, and she did well, but she wasn't super happy, and her passion was to become something like an interior designer. So she went and she got a degree in that, and she started her own business, and now she has a really successful interior design business. And then we listen and we get fascinated, and we get inspired, and oh my gosh, this is awesome. What an amazing person she is. And the courage that it took to change the career, and how amazing is that? So this is great, except that what if it's not your story? Exactly. What if it took you a little bit longer to be successful in your second or in your third or possibly even a fourth career? And God forbid, if it's been so many changes, what if you don't succeed right away? What if you make a mistake? What if I pick a new career and it turns out to be not exactly what I expected, so I don't really love it as much as I thought I would? These things can happen too. And all of that, they put a lot of pressure on us, and they also keep us stuck. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is not to scare you guys, but to really be aware of this and to understand this is not, it feels real, but it is your journey, and it is your choice. And you can have as many careers as you want. And, who is to say that this is wrong and this is right? So I'm going to go a little bit more into limiting beliefs that keep us stuck, just to kind of dismantle them and to point them out. I don't know what else I can do. Here's the first one. I've been doing this for so many years. I don't know if I can do anything else, because this is what my experience is. And this is real for people. That's what people say. And they don't even realize that they, regardless of what they did in the past, there is such a thing as transferable skills. So the experience that you have in your previous career can actually be beneficial in your next career, even if your next career is completely different from the first one, believe it or not. We'll get more into that. I'm too old to change careers now. That statement, I have to say, is older than you. It's older than all of us, but it's real. And it could start as early as in your 30s, believe it or not. And for some people, I'm 35 now. Gosh, I don't want to. Is it too late to change careers? Okay, well, 35 is not too bad. How about 45? How about 55, 65? And the truth is, it's never too late. One of the things I like to do when I talk about career, I often compare it to marriage or relationship, because there's a lot of analogy in that, and there's a lot of similarities. So what comes to mind is a story I read a long time ago about the oldest divorced couple recorded, in the Guinness record, and they were 103 and 107 years old, and they got divorced. And when I read that, I just thought, oh my gosh. So it is really never too late. And there's a time in your life that you start wondering, how long can I take this? And I better do something about it now, because I really don't know how long I have on this planet. So to translate it into career change, as long as you are not ready to retire yet, as long as you're still willing to work, you can change careers anytime. Okay, I already changed my career once or twice, or 3 times, or however many times. So there are people like my father-in-law, who had the same job all his life, and with the same company, was a school teacher for 40, 50 years. And I just don't know too many people like that. And did he love his job? I often ask my husband that question. Did your dad love his job? And he would say, well, he complained a lot, which of course doesn't necessarily mean he didn't love it. But my guess is he stayed because he didn't know what else to do. He didn't know anything else. And, that's the kind of life he knew. And then I also know people who have changed careers 6 or 7 times. And, as long as it makes you happy, that's what's important. Another limiting belief, or, I don't want to go back to school. And the truth is, you may go back to school, or you may have to, or you may not. One thing I do like to say is, if you already have a degree, if you already have a bachelor's degree, you don't need another bachelor degree. You can just learn a few, take a few classes here and there just to learn the material. There are ways around it. You don't have to go back to get another 2 or 4 year college, or you can go above. So if you already have a bachelor, how about getting a master's this time? But that's a personal choice. And we also live in a world where more and more companies are becoming open to people who didn't graduate. There are still a few who have that requirement, and you have to have a college degree. But a lot of them will take your experience as an alternative, or equivalent, as they would say. So another thing is, I don't want to start over, meaning start from scratch, go back to the bottom of the pile, be the entry-level person that everybody bosses around. I already done that. I don't want to do this again. And that is, The truth is, you might have to go back with a level or two. You don't have to start from the bottom. And it also depends on how you position yourself in the new career. And one of the limiting beliefs people have is that they have to start from scratch and completely cross out the experience they already have because it's really not relevant. And a lot of times it's not irrelevant. Your experience in your previous career matters. And then there are skills, and then there are accomplishments that you've made, and you've brought value. And it's important to recognize that and remember that and bring it up to your next position. So we're going to be talking about value a lot in this presentation, and I'll get back to it. And then finally, the biggest fear is, what if I make a mistake? Or what if I make a mistake again? But what if you don't? What if you don't do anything? How much and how long are you willing to stay? So that's another question. Now, what it comes down to, really, why do people change careers? So let's talk about that. And there are two reasons that I commonly see. The most common reason is because they are unhappy. They're unhappy about something. The job is not exactly what they thought it would be. Things are not working out. They're unhappy about something, and they want the change. They want something else. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the dynamic of how it happens. So it's not just you are unhappy about one thing, but it's usually when someone is unhappy over and over again, and it's too much, and eventually it gets to the point where, okay, I'm done with this career and it's time to move on. And when you feel it, you know it, and when you're ready, that's when you start taking action. Another reason is circumstantial. So that one is pretty hard, but it does happen. It's not as common, but circumstances, you have to move to another country, and it's going to be really hard to get a job doing the same thing you were doing. Or even if you move to another state and the industry just doesn't exist there, that could happen. Sometimes your industry just goes out. Times change, the world changes, technology changes, and you have to move along with it. And that's not always easy. Now, the circumstantial changes or reasons, when that happens, the career change doesn't have to be as drastic, as going from, let's say, an engineer to a jazz musician or something crazy like that. It could be something similar to what you were doing before, but modified so that you can do it in the new location at the new time, with the new economy, things like that. So there are adjustments that you can make, and it doesn't have to be 180 or 360 degree, however you call it. But the bottom line, career change, I will say, may not always be the answer. But if there's a little voice inside you that's telling you, I'm unhappy, at the very least, you should listen to that voice. And the reason is because if you don't do anything about it, if you're unhappy, something is not working with your career at your job, if nothing is done, chances are it's not going to get any better. Most likely it's going to get worse. So let's talk a little bit about what we need to be happy. So this is the concept that I came up with in my practice, working with career change clients, and just anybody. You don't have to be changing careers. It's actually true for anybody. To have a thriving career, so what I have, these are the 6 pillars of a thriving career. And these are the 6 things we need, and they need to be working and they need to be functional. And if something isn't working, we notice, we get unhappy, and we may put up with it for a while. Most people do. They kind of let it go. unless it's a really non-negotiable deal breaker for them, then what they do is they find another job. So let's talk about the 6 pillars. The first one is passion. The passion is, we need to feel passionate and excited about the work we do. We need to care about it. We need to, sometimes it shows up as, geeking out about your work, talking about it. And you can tell when somebody's passionate about what they do because it really shows in their voice. They get really excited about it, or they talk nonstop, and, it's pretty obvious. And does it mean that they're always happy with the results? They're always getting positive and everything is smooth and peachy? Not necessarily. You deal with challenges, but that's part of it. Part of the passion is working through the challenges, solving problems, and making accomplishments, which make us happy. The other pillar, very strong one that goes along with passion, is value. Value is a big deal. And it's very important that we know that we bring value in our work. And one of the biggest reasons that people either change career or they walk away from their job is when they feel like they're either being undervalued, unvalued, or they don't feel like they're bringing any value by doing what they do. So I just want to make it really clear. Value, what does it mean and how does it show up? Not everybody can express appreciation, and not everybody can receive praise with confidence. Some people feel really uncomfortable. Feeling valued is not necessarily about getting a thank you. I had one person come to me and say, well, I feel undervalued, but I'm not the kind of guy who just wants to hear a thank you all the time. No, it's not about that. It's about knowing that what you do brings value. It's about knowing that you're bringing a contribution, that you're making a difference for somebody. And sometimes, when you help someone and then just watching them get better at something, seeing the evidence of your work making a positive change, that could be enough to see your value. And then, of course, it's nice to see appreciation, which could come in the form of, a raise, a better pay, a promotion maybe, or the way that people treat you and how they talk about you. So these things, they're all related. The other 4 pillars, so we're going to talk about the environment. So having a supportive work environment is important, and that includes your team, people you're working with, your management, the clients, and just the company that you work for. Do you feel proud of the company? How do you feel about the company value? Do you agree? Do you align? Or do you hate it and you're just putting up with it because you need a job? Sorry for being blunt, but that can happen. That happens a lot. The other piece is growth. Growth is very important in your career. We need to be growing. And for some people, growth can mean different things depending on how you understand it. So it could mean growing, really advancing in your career. It could also mean growing, learning new things, new technical expertise, and really growing could mean maturing, in your professional environment. If you look at yourself now and then you compare to last year or 5 years ago, do you see a difference? So that could also be a growth. And then finally, compensation, getting paid what you deserve, and balance. Balance is not necessarily work-life balance. That's, what I used to say. But balance is having a healthy balance of work that's enough to get you stimulated, to keep you busy, but not overwhelm you. So a lack of balance, what does it look like? Too much, it could be overtime, but not necessarily. You can have a 40-hour work week and still feel overwhelmed because your work is super demanding and it's asking of you more than you are capable of giving. So you feel exhausted and drained all the time. So that could mean lack of balance. Another reason why you'd lose balance, you don't have a healthy balance, is not having enough work to do. So being bored all the time, not really advancing, that could be a lack of balance, which will also contribute to lack of growth and eventually lack of value, and it will affect your passion. So the thing about these 6 pillars is that they are connected. So when one of them is not working, it's gonna affect the others. And it starts usually with one pillar, the work environment, let's say, for example. So you're not happy about your work environment, and then eventually it's gonna affect how you show up. It's gonna affect your balance, your growth. You're not gonna fully apply yourself. And then after years and years of not being happy, eventually it will affect other pillars as well, and your passion. And now how people react to it, it really depends on their personality. So let's talk about that for a little bit. Actually, that was not on my plan yet. I'll just briefly mention, and then it will be in the next slide, not the next one, but a few slides over. But how we react to being unhappy at work really depends on our personality. So not everybody is the same. Not everybody's gonna quit a job just because they don't like the boss. Some people will quit sooner than others. And then of course, there are people who will stay. So that's all I'm gonna say, and then I'll get back to that. So let's talk about passion. And I'm not gonna go in details about every pillar. I'm just gonna talk about passion and value. So what is passion? It's an unstoppable desire to make something happen. It's something you think about even after your working day is over. It's something that you are excited about, something you can't stop talking about. And when you are in the middle of it, you feel in the zone. So that's how I define passion in your career. And if you look at the guy on the picture with the camera, so he's not just taking pictures, I can tell, because he loves snapping shots of nature. You can tell he's looking for specific time, when the lighting is perfect, and he's trying to catch and really capture that perfect shot. So there's a lot more that goes into it than just doing something for the sake of doing for having fun. So it's more than just fun. Sometimes it can be even frustrating, but you are determined, you want to make it happen, and little obstacles on the road won't stop you easily. So that's what passion looks like. Now your value. The value, this value, we're going to talk more about it because that's the core of this presentation. It is something that you bring to the table no matter where you go or what you do. Another way of saying it is your value, you can also call it your purpose. So I want to be very specific, very clear what your purpose is not, because I've heard, a lot of misconceptions and just people say, your purpose is not your career. Your purpose is not to be, a musician or an engineer or fill in the blank, whatever profession you choose. Your purpose or your value is something that you do no matter where you go, which actually gives you a freedom to choose from more than one career. So it doesn't really matter as much what career you choose, as long as you get to bring your value, live your purpose, and the value that you bring is actually needed in this type of position. As long as you feel appreciated and valued at this job because what you do well and people need it, then I'd say you're in good shape. It also, value is something that gives you confidence. It's something that gives you pride and joy for the job well done. So we can bring value in so many ways. You can help somebody out, you can clean somebody's home, you can, do whatever. Doesn't mean that you do it because you love doing it, but it will bring them value, it will help them out. But the important piece, what I'm talking about, the value that's connected to your purpose, your unique value, is something that you do well just simply by being you. So usually, normally, it is something that you love to do, because when you get it done, it brings you that feeling of joy and satisfaction. So that's the big part of it. It's something that feeds your passion and keeps you going when things get difficult. Now, I will say, most people don't know their value. They never think about it. They think, well, maybe I do know, kind of, sort of, but not really. And why don't we know our value? Because it's hard. We can only learn our value through feedback. It's hard to say, well, I bring value doing X because that's what I like to do. But if it's not really giving any value to another person or to somebody else, then it's not really value. So imagine if you help somebody out and you kind of force it on them, but what they needed was something else. So it doesn't really work. There's no flow. But in order to know our value, it has to come from feedback. You really have to have somebody at least say, look, what you did, this X, Y, and Z, what you did for me, that was really helpful. It really helped me a lot. And now, because of that, this is what I'm doing. And it's also hard to think of your value when you're not happy with your job. When you're not happy because of some of the reasons we just talked about, you're being underpaid, or you don't like the management, or you don't get along with somebody. It's hard to even think, and especially if you stayed there for a long time, it's hard to even think, well, what have you done to contribute? What were your accomplishments? It's, they're there, but it's not easy to pick them out. We also collapse our value with work experience or technical skills, which is easy to do because when you look at a job description, like a typical job description, they will ask for things that are usually technical expertise or your experience, how many years of experience you've had here and there. But they don't necessarily say about what kind of person do we need. Well, they do, but we rarely listen. We don't pay attention to this bit. We only look how we can position ourselves for the job based on the experience that we have in the past, which is very hard to do when you're changing careers. Because, well, my experience was in something else. How can I tell you, how can I express it to you, or how can I convince you that I can do the job even though I didn't do it before? So that's where the challenge comes from. And finally, we only share with others what we're comfortable with them knowing about us. So when it comes to writing a resume for yourself or your LinkedIn profile, we only say things that we're really cautious. Well, we don't want people to think this or that or that. So I'm really going to be very cautious about what I say on my profile. And we rarely express and talk about what value we bring to the table. Yeah. And of course, it comes back to because we don't know what it is. We literally need somebody else to tell us. And even if somebody else tells us, I will say we don't always listen. Just think about your work reviews. They usually say, the things you do well, and then areas of improvement. And guess where our mind goes? The areas of improvement. We remember those, but we rarely remember all the positive things. We rarely record it, we rarely keep it, and then we forget. And then it's been years and years later, and somebody asks you, what do you do well? Well, it was on my review, but I don't really remember. So that's the important thing. What do people do when they lose passion or feel undervalued? So when it's time to change career, I'm going to go back to that personality reference I talked about. One of the things I do in my practice is I do a DISC assessment, personality test. It's part of the career clarity session. You know, the first thing I offer anybody who, whether they change career or not, even if they're just looking for another job in the same industry, is the career clarity session. Because the number one thing that people discover from that session is their value. And part of it, you know, I do the assessment test, and then there's, we do some work on 6 pillars, and then there's more, just, you know, through the conversation. And I want to talk about the 2 types of personality that I encounter a lot in my practice when it comes to changing careers. And these are people who avoid change at all cost, and people who rush for a change, which is kind of the opposite side of that coin. So the first type are typically people who are in the same career for 10 years, 15, sometimes 20 plus years. And doesn't mean that they're happy there, but they stay there for a long time. And, you know, I'm just going to say it, you know, it can come across as loyalty, but it has, I have a feeling it has nothing to do with loyalty, that it has everything to do with the fear of change. Now, before I go any further, I just want to make it clear, none of these personality types is better than the other. And it's not good, it's not bad, it just is. It's just something to acknowledge and to see about yourself and think, well, what am I going to do about it? And make a decision based on that. And people who really stick around for a long time, they bring a lot of value. They have the amazing quality that just I admire a lot. And it's their ability to be tolerant in a very difficult situation. So these are the type of people who can go for professions that are too difficult for others. There are hard jobs that nobody else wants to do, but somebody has to do. You know, like working with people who deal with trauma, or working with prisoners, or working in a hospital, or you know, those are just small example. But they have the ability to tolerate a lot and to really stay calm under pressure. So that's part of their value. But unfortunately, if you are in a situation where your value is not being used productively, then they use it not in a productive way, which, by the way, your value, you're still going to bring it, whether or not it's needed, whether or not it's part of the job, because that's part of who you are. So that's what happens. I had a client recently who was at the company for, I'd say, close to 15 years. And from the very beginning, we started our work together. You know, we did the session. I said, what are you doing there? You know, you were really not happy, like nothing is working. You know, we did all the evaluation and everything. And he's like, I don't know, I have to leave. And on top of that, he was demoted several times. He was moved in a position where that wasn't really his cup of tea. They told him, well, this is where we need you to be, whether you like it or not. And he would just go along with it. And he was underpaid for this role, and just general not happy. And, you know, we worked on the materials, the resume, LinkedIn, and everything. And, a few months later, he was still there. And I said, okay, well, it is what it is. And then after like a little break, couple of months, he reaches back out to me and he says, guess what, Katherine? I've been laid off. So I said, congratulations. Because honestly, that is the best thing that could happen to you at this job. And that was true. So within a month after being laid off, he got a new job offer that paid twice as much as what he was doing. And he was not doing the same thing he was doing before. So there was a bit of a career change. So before he was working remotely with some teams, I'm not going to get into details, but in his new job, he gets to be working with production and doing really exciting things that he really wanted to do, but he didn't get to do for many years. So he was really ecstatic about that. And that's what happened. For people who avoid change, sometimes the only way for them to get to make that change is a layoff. And unfortunately, they often get end in that pile because of their tendency to go with the flow rather than make changes or being more making more of a decisive action. And then there's another type, the opposite. So people who rush for a change, people who have that, I work and then at some point I'm done with it and I'm just gonna move on. Again, no judgment, and I just want to encourage you guys, if there's any judgment coming up, let go. It's okay. It is what it is. These people, the second category, they also bring value. They also have a lot of value that they bring to the table. And their value is to inspire people. It's to bring something new and excited. They're very innovative. They're extremely adaptable and fast learners. But sometimes when you rush too much to new things before, finishing up with what you've started, A, you may miss out, and B, there might be a danger in landing in another career that's eventually going to make you unhappy as well. So let's move on. Oh, okay. I think I've talked enough at this point. I'm going to check in with you, see if there's any questions. If anybody, please look at the chat box.
Yeah, Katherine, thanks so much. That was really great. And we do have some really good questions in here, so we'll just dive in. Let you catch your breath for a second. We had quite a few questions that kind of touched on ageism, which I think dovetails with career changes in many cases. And one of them from Sam Blackwell asks, I understand transferable skills, but how can I handle the ageism issue? How do I write a suitable resume that doesn't scream old?
Well, that's a good question. Of course, ageism happens whether you change careers or not, and especially with the resume writings. Now, when it comes to resume writing, there are some tricks that we recommend, some things here and there to kind of remove all the red flags from your resume. And so that could be removing the dates from your graduation dates from college, for example, or removing anything from your resume that's more than 15 years old. And at this point, I have a saying, if the year starts with 19, it doesn't belong on your resume. And if you want to keep it there because you are so attached to that particular position, then find a way to remove the date from it. Just put another section. So those are the little nitty-gritty things that's best discussed when you actually start writing a resume. But overall, to answer your question, ageism, what I observed about it, I'm not going to deny that it's real. It is. but the biggest obstacle comes from our own head. So we create our own obstacles more than anybody else does. And I'm saying this because I've actually helped people in their 70s to find a job. They were my clients. And I've known one person in particular in her 70s who had the most amazing attitude when it comes to job search. And as far as she was concerned, ageism might as well not exist. And, that was very admirable. And she said, I'm going to take a vacation right now. And when I come back, I'm going to find a job. And that kind of confidence and attitude really goes far, far. So she actually did find a perfect job when she said she would. And people hired her. They could tell. She went on the interview. They could see she wasn't, a spring chicken. But her attitude, her determination, and just her approach to things inspired not only me, but apparently the interviewers as well. So she got a job. And I know this is hard and we all deal with it. But my encouragement is, yes, you can make yourself look younger. But what's really important is your attitude. And what really matters is what you bring to the job. And if you can express it to a potential employer with confidence, then your age won't matter as much. And they'll be willing to overlook it. So hopefully I answered that question.
That's great. Yeah, and we have a couple of questions that kind of match up with that a little bit. So you could maybe continue, not explicitly about ageism, but some of the challenges that go along with that. Emily asks, earlier you just said, if it starts in 19, it doesn't belong on your resume. Emily Fox says that she's seen in previous webinars that the focus should be on the jobs you've held in the last 5 years. So what would you say, Katherine, about if you want to highlight experience on your resume from a position that's older than 5 years old, how do you go about highlighting that on your career change resume?
Well, first of all, I'd say 5 years is a bit extreme. And it really depends on the person. And it is normal for us career experts to kind of disagree in little areas here and there. We don't all think alike. So sometimes you're going to hear a different school of thought. And the way that I would approach it, my advice about it is just, listen to all opinions and just pick the one that resonates with you the most. I personally think 5 years is a bit of extreme. If you are in your 40s or 50s, you're not going to pass for a 25-year-old. But you can still make yourself look younger. So maybe 10 years younger, not 20 years younger. And for somebody who is in their 40s and at the senior level position or close to director or VP, having only 5 years of experience, that would actually diminish their credibility. So I would say not 5, but maybe 10 to 15. And for some people, some really, really senior executive roles, it's okay to go back even further. So yes, that really depends on your what job you're going for. And then again, just think about this. You're trying to avoid ageism or any kind of ism or discrimination. You don't really want to work for somebody who doesn't want someone like you because you're too old. You want to work for somebody who is more accepting in an environment that's more inclusive. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Don't try to bend over like a pretzel trying to please them, because guess what? You're going to end up working there. And if you try too hard applying for the job, you're going to keep on trying hard working for that company. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Iana in the chat made a similar point just a few minutes ago. If you have to hide who you are, do you really want to work for that employer? Probably not.
Exactly. That's a much simpler way of saying what I just said in much fewer words. So yeah.
Love it. Dave asks, I'm changing careers, but I'm caught between too much experience and not enough. I know that I don't need to be the senior VP, but how do you show that you're open to learning and not afraid to slide down the ladder? So he's willing to come back a little bit, but how does he communicate that?
That's, to really better answer your question, I'd have to look more into details about what's going on. It's hard to answer this kind of question on the fly. But there are ways, there are ways. First of all, it's really important to understand what the company is looking for. So this is what the value is. So the value is about you, what you do well, no matter where you go and what profession you take, how you bring value, what makes you unique from any other person in that position. And also, what is it that they're looking for? And would that really make a difference for them? So how do you speak to their pain points? That's another way of saying that. And sometimes, how do you find that golden middle, that balance? Not too much, but enough, but not too much. Again, I'm going to have to look at the more specifics to be able to answer the question. But yeah, that's yeah, I can't answer that question in generic terms. It's really hard. And I wanted to, John, I want to move on because I'm looking at the time. We're getting close to 4:00, and
yes,
I just want to share something with people, and then once I do, we can open for questions again.
Perfect.
How long do I have, by the way? Are we gonna shut down at 4, or is it 4:30, or as long as people stay?
We'll shut down around 4, but if you can stay a little longer, we'll keep it rolling and answer questions. But yeah, probably about 4 we'll shut it down. So if you want to go to your next thing, that's great.
Okay, yeah, just for the time sake.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the process, my process. So what I do, like I said, I start with career clarity session, which is a very, very intense work to discover your value. So this is how I bring value. This is my purpose. I am very good at seeing other people's value through conversations, with the help of assessment tests that I do, and the other work all combined in one. So, and then once you discover your value and you get that clarity, then we build marketing materials, and that clarity, that value is going to be very important because it's going to go on all of your materials, and it also helps you talk to potential employers about yourself. And of course, based on that, we build action plan. So that's just the gist of it. So what I'd like to offer to this group on this call is a career clarity session, which is a 90-minute coaching session, and it includes a DISC assessment. So DISC is the assessment test that I use in my practice. There are a few more. This is my preference. I like it because it's simple and it's easy to explain, and I just love the way it is designed. And I'll say it doesn't put you in the box. Don't worry. I am perfectly capable of seeing individuals being unique. And there is no DISC results that I've ever seen two identical ones. So they are like fingerprints. And also we do work on the 6 pillars. Now the offer, so if you go to blossomcareer.com/career clarity. So that's where you can sign up. The current rate is $425 for that whole session. So I do give you a little bit of a discount. So it's going to be $397. And to get the discount, you got to put a code in there. And the code is NoFear21. And if you put that code, it will give you that discount. And one last thing I want to mention about this code is that it does expire on October 8th. Specifically that date, why? Because I am going on vacation on October 9th for 2 weeks. I'll be back on the 25th. And, I want to be able to process and respond to all the inquiries before I go, because once I go, I won't be able to. And the truth is, can you have your career clarity session after I come back? If you're willing to wait, absolutely. But you need to sign up for it before October 8th in order to get the discount. Okay, so just quickly, I'm gonna click on that. We're gonna takes us away a little bit from this. So this is the website you're gonna get, blossomcareer.com/career clarity. Make sure there's a dash in between. And by the way, John, is that gonna be in the notes somewhere? So people can.
Yep, I've added it to the chat and we'll send it out via email as well.
Okay, great. So that you don't lose that site, and just scroll down. It's going to give you a little bit information what it is. So it's 425. Again, no fear. It's not case sensitive. No fear 21. Apply, and you get the discount. And then if you buy now, it's already going to be applied. Okay. So that pretty much concludes my presentation, and now I am all yours for more questions.
Yeah, we'll try to get a few more in for the people that are sticking around. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, let's see here. So Jacqueline asks, how do you market yourself as a career changer? She spent 38 years as a hairstylist. Okay, let me rephrase. So Jacqueline has spent 38 years as a hairstylist and went back and got her degree in finance. So how does she market herself as a career changer, now that she's after 50, going into a brand new space with a degree?
Oh, that's awesome. Again, another question that's very specific, and I would need to dig deeper in order to answer. But how would you market yourself? The first thing is, you want to just to give you the gist of it, just the bottom line is go back to your career as a stylist and look at your contributions and what you do really well that would make you really good at finances. So what is the transferable skill that's proven that you can use? And to be more specific, to be able to tell you, I would have to be working with you, but that's how you would approach it. So you look back, whenever you do a drastic career change from something that looks completely different that you've done before, just like I said earlier, it because of who you are, you do certain things, you bring value in a very unique way that nobody else does like you. And so what makes you a good stylist? Being really detail oriented, for example, really being good with people, being very personable. It could be also being very creative. So those are all the qualities of a good stylist, right? And there could be something else that I haven't mentioned. But then again, some of these qualities could also make you really good at finances. So you have to think about exactly what it is. And there is a way that you can show it on your resume. So hopefully, again, my best attempt to answer the question in generically, that's very specific.
Well, here's a broader question kind of on the same topic.
Okay.
So Sam Blackwell asks, do you recommend obtaining a certificate or returning to school if you're switching into a different field?
Yes, in most cases, yes. But again, it does depend on which profession you're going for. So for example, let's take a project manager. So there's a PMI certification. Most project managers I know don't have that certification, but some of them do. And that could be a part of what makes you unique. So recently I had a conversation with a recruiter, and we specifically talked about education and degrees and certifications. And one of the things she said was very specific for companies that are more open to people who don't have a degree. Their approach is, if you at least have 5 years of relevant experience, that's going to be viewed as a degree. When you change a career, that makes a difference because you don't have 5 years of experience in the new career yet. You're just changing careers, obviously. But if you already have a bachelor's degree, you don't need to get another bachelor's degree in a different field. That's just going to be an overkill, and it's going to just make you pay high student loan in the end. So in that case, I would recommend a certification.
Excellent. Well, I think taking one last quick look at the chat, see if there's anything we can jump into here. Oh, this is an interesting one. Yolanda asks, I'm going back to get a grad level certificate in product management for my career change. Should I put the certificate on my resume even though it is in progress and almost finished?
Yes.
Can I indicate that it's in progress?
That's an easy question. Yes. And yes, you would put expected. You are in the process. How long is it gonna take to get the certification? Is it gonna be a year, a few months, or are you almost done? If I'll just say, if you're gonna obtain it and it's gonna be less than a month or two, you can go ahead. You can wait probably a month, or just say you have it, you're almost there. But if it's going to take longer, then you can say in progress or anticipated graduation completion, 2022 or something like that. But yeah, definitely mention it. That's
Perfect.
gonna do nothing but give you more credibility.
All right. Well, we are. Oh, actually, one more came in, I think is pretty relevant here. So a lot of times when career change topic comes up, resume writers or career coaches will try to recommend a functional resume rather than a chronological format. Do you have any opinions on that for the career change? That question's from Greg. Thank you, Greg.
Yes, I've heard about functional resumes. I personally don't like them. Most employers don't like them. And when I write a resume for people, even the ones who change careers, there is actually a way to do it through chronological resume too. So I personally see no need, but I'm not going to say, no, do it this way or that way, because it's just my opinion. And I'm going to be open to the fact there are other ways of doing it. But because that's how, where I come from, and my line of thought is chronological resumes are just easier to read. It's what people are used to seeing a lot. And it's part of the marketing strategy. So when people look at documents that they see these types of documents a lot, their eyes are used to finding what they're looking for based on where it's located. So if you change things around drastically, what it's going to do is it's going to just make it more difficult for people to read your resume. Just like a website, you look at the website, you see contact information on the top, and that's where most websites will have it. And if you put it at the bottom, or the bottom left corner, chances are people are not going to find it because they're not going to think about looking there. And so that's where my thinking comes from. There is a way to create a chronological resume even if you change careers. So why bother making it more difficult?
Yeah, I agree. As someone that as a occasional hiring manager, the functional resume very confusing,
Yeah.
very yeah, not very straightforward. So, all right, so we're
Mhm.
just about up on our time here. Actually, we're over time. So, thank you so much for everyone joining us. Thank you, Catherine, for
Thank you,
sharing
John.
your expertise. This was really great. So, everyone that's still here, don't forget to save that link for the JobScan Premium free trial and 20% off. That's going to be at jobscan.co/promo/no-fear. We'll send it out via email as well. And we also still have a few more presentations coming up this week. Job searching after 50. I think that could be relevant to some of you here. LinkedIn, and then how to use JobScan as well if you're interested. So that's about it for today. Catherine, thanks so much.
Thank you. And it was my pleasure. And I really enjoyed this presentation. And thank you for making it happen again.